Hey everyone, Mario again, coming at you with another review. Today I'm reviewing a film I haven't seen in, give or take, 15 to 18, maybe even 19 years. I'd say probably 17 probably is closer to the actual number. It's a film that, I've been meaning to look back and watch again for years, just never gotten around to it, and I felt this year around Halloween was the perfect time. It is the 1977 cult classic directed by Wes Craven, The Hills Have Eyes. It has a 6.4 on IMDb, a 54 with the audience on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 64 with the critics. And I have to say, after rewatching it, that's more or less about the score on Rotten Tomatoes. On IMDb, I think probably a 6.0, and between a 5.0 and a 6.0 would be a little bit more accurate. I can honestly say, even though I still enjoy the film, it's a film that has aged a little bit, maybe partially because there is a remake since the first time I watched this film that was made that I actually enjoy a little bit more, even though it's been a while since I've watched it. But also, I guess because of certain elements in the film have aged it a little bit, and also late 70s, and maybe also the fact that Craven has done better films. Now, it still has a place in horror history, though, especially among when you put in Wes Craven's filmography. So for that, it still, was important. But my enjoyment level of it dropped a little bit. Then again, maybe it's because I've only watched it twice and it's been years. Maybe a couple more rewatches I might feel a little bit differently. Now, this film is based on the legend of Swanee Bean and his family, which consisted of a wife, 8 sons, and 6 daughters, who were a feral clan who inhabited and roamed the Highlands of Scotland near Edinburgh in the early 1400s. They captured, tormented, and ate several transients. They were eventually captured on the orders of Scotland's King James. They were judged insane, and of course, based on what they did, that's a rightful judgment. And they were executed without trial. Execution I agree with. Trial, maybe not so much, but the year you can understand. And and apparently the executions of the Bean Clan all allegedly involved grotesque tortures, which kind of inspire the family in this film's revenge methods, especially the ending with all the traps, which this is something I noticed that a lot of Wes Craven's early films involved the protagonist getting revenge with traps. I mean, we saw a little bit of it in Nightmare on Elm Street, see more of it here. Now, the original script was more in line with the retelling of this. It was set in 1994 in a forested area rather than a desert, and the clan in the film was going to contain dozens of incestuous family members. And of course, the baby was not going to be stolen for food, but for some type of weird ritual thing. But for some weird reason, they decided to switch it to it. I'm going to guess probably budget reasons, because the film was made for only about $230,000, so just a shy hair of $250,000. It made $25 million, so it made back that money. But with that amount of money being spent on it, you can understand why something like that would be scaled back. And of course, it was filmed in the desert, and the area it was filmed in had very rocky terrain, making it difficult to walk, let alone run. And the temperature apparently reached up to 120 degrees during the day, which which is bad for Michael Berryman, because the condition that gives him his unusual head also makes it so where he doesn't have sweat glands. No sweat glands, no sweat. 120-degree weather, you're screwed, kind of. But he soldiered on, and look at his part in the film. And of course, this area would also drop to 30 degrees at night within a couple minutes, so it goes. So the weather was like. Can you imagine filming through that? But we get a pretty good film out of it. Now, the plot of the film is we got this family traveling to California. I didn't really catch mention of a name of a city they were coming from, but I'm going to guess it's somewhere on the East Coast, probably New York. I think the father probably mentioned it, but I didn't catch it. And they're going right now to try to find this silver mine that apparently someone in their family left them. They are passing this one rundown gas station in the middle of nowhere, ran by this man named Fred, who we find out later is actually the father of the guy who started this clan out in the desert. So he's the progenitor of this clan. Anyway, the family, after passing this gas station, break down, and the people from this clan are like, ooh, we can get stuff. So they wait for the members to split up. I mean, the dad goes back to the gas station. His son-in-law goes to go find out what's down at the other end of the road, and his other son, his daughters, and his wife stay with the camper. Well, as you can imagine, slowly the clan comes in and they pick off a couple of the members that kidnapped the baby, and it's up to who's left to make a stand against these guys and get the baby back. Now, of course, before the dad gets killed, I know that's a spoiler, but I gotta mention it. We find out the backstory about this clan member. The founder of the clan is the son of Fred, like I mentioned earlier, and he started the clan after an incident where he burned down his parents' house, and then his dad took and beat him in the head with something, took him out to the desert, thought he killed him, but he hadn't. And when we see this guy, we see the scar on his face, so it's like, yeah. I think the guy's name was, I think it's Jupiter who's the dad. Yeah, Papa Jupiter. So you can understand why what happens to his dad in the film. And of course you can also understand why the survivors do stuff they do at the end, and you were rooting for them. Because I mean, you don't want these guys to die. I mean, it's more or less the same reason we kind of root for the one girl at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre who want to see her escape, but different scenario, which is kind of funny. Because apparently if you notice, there are similarities to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which according to Wes Craven at the time were intentional, as he was a huge fan of Tobe Hooper's film and he considered this film as a homage to it, which is an interesting way to do it. I mean, these people are cannibals in a way, but they're not really to that same level. They're more like fringe cannibal hippie looking guys. Which that's one difference between this and the remake. The remake, they're mutants, where this one they're more like hippie, Native American, tribal people. Which I guess is where the influence from the one Scottish guy comes from, kind of a tribal little thing. Not really much of a hint of incest, like the original script was going to have. But I don't really think you need it, at least in this one. Now, the strength of the film is Wes Craven's direction. I mean, for the amount of money that he had to use, and the porno camera he had to borrow, because the camera that this film was shot on apparently was used by a pornography company, which is kind of ironic considering at first this film got the X rating. And some of the acting, mostly from Michael Berryman, James Whitworth, who played Papa Jupiter. There are moments where the the family characters do decent jobs, but for the most part they're just there. I think it's like Berryman and Papa Jupiter's actor who really steal it as acting goes. But other than that, nothing's gonna win an Oscar, or nothing that makes it stand out. At least me looking back on it and forward. And writing, you mainly just root for him just because clan guys are doing bad. Family, is kind of innocent, not 100%. I mean, humans were not perfect, but you're rooting for them mainly because they're the victims in this case. But on that, I'll say the remake does a better job of making them a little bit more characters, but maybe that's just my preference there. And the music I thought was okay. It fit it. You can obviously tell this is definitely not my favorite Wes Craven film. Like I said, it's mainly one that's important to watch just for its place in horror history. And there's really nothing much more to say about the film. I don't think I'm alone in thinking this film is I don't know if I would say overrated or not. It's just, I can understand why it gets a cult following, but other than the horror history thing and it being one of Wes Craven's earlier films, his second film in fact, I don't really see, at least just with another watch, what the big hubbub is, other than a couple scenes and Michael Berryman with that weird look. But that's about it. I'd say only watch it if you're a big fan of horror, or if you're a fan of Wes Craven. It definitely is a film I can see watching with people, if we're doing like a horror marathon of film of older horror films, and someone's like, hey, how about The Hills Have Eyes? Yeah, watch The Hills Have Eyes. I could definitely see myself watching it every Halloween, as a lead into Halloween. Like if I was going to do a marathon by myself, I'd probably put it in if I was doing 70s horror films. Other than that, nothing really much reason to watch it. Rating, I really don't have an idea what rating I would give it, at least at this point in time.